So great, Rico. We talked about network and we talked about IP address. So the next question for me is, can you give me a general definition of network and where does the IP address come from? Why is it important? And what are the other foundational terms or I have to learn about network or internet?
Right. So some of the things that we kind of want to look at here in regards to IP addresses are, it all starts at the cable and also the COX layer or whatever it is, like if you have COX, CenturyLinks, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
And what we want to look at is they're going to assign you an IP address, right?
Uh-huh.
And then at that point, however you have it configured inside your system configuration is going to handle, it's called DHCP, right? It's just going to handle IP addresses, and it's going to give you a range based on your IP address class, like whether it's A, B, or C, or D, right? At that point, you can have 200 IP addresses, 500 IP addresses, 1,000 IP addresses. It kind of really is up to that. That's how IP addresses are handed out in the local network, which is your LAN. So some of the things I might configure depends on the environment of how this is going to look at in the business aspect, right? Let's say you have, again, let's just go with the general doctor's office, right? You only have 2 users, and you have a DMARC, and you just have the regular stuff, right? So you're going to need a router, you're going to need a switch, possibly a firewall if you can afford one, okay? A couple workstations, printer, if you will, and you definitely recommend a backup of some sort. You're gonna have backup incremental, nightly, quarterly, however you want to configure how to meet your business need. That's how I definitely approach it.
Okay, so when you mentioned LAN or doctor's office or home network, so that's our LAN, that's our local area network.
Yeah, you can definitely say it's a LAN. Yes.
The printer, the devices, and when we connect through the cable company or internet service provider, we connect to the bigger network in the neighborhood, that becomes the WAN,
Yes.
wide
So
area network.
Multi-layered networks, such as local networks. You have X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C, and they all comprise of one big WAN.
So when we get an IP address for our home, we get one address. What about when we have more than one device? Then what would be, how each of those devices would individually be recognized? They will all use the same IP address to go to the network, but they each have a different address also, a different number?
Not necessarily. All the devices, first of all, you have an IP address, right? And then they'll be on the same subdomain or subnet, okay? Which is great. At that point, they'll be handling out different IP address for each individual device, right? So you have a computer,
I see.
phone. It's going to be like, let's just say it's 192.168.1.1, 1.2, 1.7, 1.12, whatever. Right?
That's how we know where this information is coming from or going to.
Yeah, so it gives it the address. So let's say your phone joins the network every time you come home. It gets a .1 tomorrow, .5 tomorrow, the next day, whatever.
Yeah.
So every time you leave the network, it's going to kill that session, and now that's an open IP address, right?
I see. Okay.
So in your network management, wherever that may be, or whatever tool you're using, it's going to go down to break it down and say, iPhone number 1 has 192.168.8 with a MAC address of X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So the MAC address should never change, or on your computer should never change, or on your cell phone it should never change. Well, that's called the MEIE number. So at that point, wherever you're sending information, it's always going to have that track of like 1555555, whatever MAC address you have is going to be associated with that computer, and that will never change, just the IP address.
So the MAC address is provided by the manufacturer with that device?
Absolutely, yes.
So it comes with it, but IP address can change depending on the service provider or where you use that device.
So now you're talking about NATing, right? So that's your natural address translation. So what that looks like is, for a month, like if you're at a home, for a month you might have, I'm just throwing stuff out there. Yeah. 192.168.1.1 for a month, and then next month, because the WAN has changed, the LAN's going to change. Now you're on a different IP address for the next month or so. However, you still be on the same subnet.
But we as a user, we don't worry about those addresses. Those addresses have to be need to be unique for the transfer of network traffic. But as a user, we don't worry about them. Our device has a unique MAC address, in the network has a unique and active IP address. But when we have an email with a username or a login into an application, that's at the application software level. It's not related to the endpoint, the device or the computer, right?
Right. I mean, you definitely can take adherence and take consideration that port forwarding might be an avenue for you to take in consideration so you can get the information. You're right. Most consumers really don't know and are really not concerned with MAC
IP
addresses
address,
or anything
MAC
like that.
address, yeah.
But you should be
Uh-huh.
because they can do redirects and your information now going somewhere else.
So this is very good info. So oftentimes we as a user, we just look at my login, my username, my login to my account, and I'm not aware that these redirects can happen at the network or LAN level.
Absolutely. So I mean, you can. It takes ranges anywhere from DNS poison all the way to IP address spoofing to man-in-the-middle attacks, and all of a sudden somebody has your information and credentials.
That's very good. Thank you.
Of course.
It's very good.